you have to do sacrifice for the next generations. If you getting killed, even if you're getting killed today, there are 1,000 people free in the future. No? One is nothing equal to thousands.
All right, a warm welcome, dear Dovies, to another entry into the Diary of Volunteers on Earth. This is a very special episode and one that is very important to me personally. It's also an episode that I wasn't sure is ever gonna see the light of day or is ever gonna be blasted out into the internet. I first recorded the intro to this podcast episode months ago when I was in Pakistan. I was almost gonna publish it. I decided against it. Before I get to what it's all about, just a little quick housekeeping in case you're listening to this in English and you live in my home city of Graz. And if you're listening to this in real time, on the 10th of October, there's going to be a presentation about my travels, about my hitchhiking experience, hitchhiking from Austria to India. And if you are not listening to this in real time, I am publishing this podcast entry and episode on, 2 days after the Remembrance Day of Jina Mahsa Amini. If you don't know who that is, then just a quick summary. Basically, Jina Mahsa Amini is a Kurdish Iranian young woman who was killed last year. Allegedly because she was not wearing her hijab correctly. She basically set off a huge wave of protests that has since then become something that locals secretly call a revolution against the authoritarian regime in Iran that's holding the power there. This was in September 2022. Even when I was there during the 75 days from April to mid-June, those protests could still be felt. A lot, and almost everybody who I spoke to basically had the need to talk about this. It came up very quickly, and this is the content of this podcast. I have interviewed someone who went to prison because they were caught at the protests, because a lot of people were basically arrested. People have been executed. Even while I was there, 3 young men who were arrested at protests were executed. A young boy died after being in a coma, I believe, for weeks because he was shot. Yeah. I could tell more and more stories. I want to read you guys a text that I've written, that I've also published 2 days ago, before I pass on the word to Amin. I am sitting in Roshan's car on the way to Shah Goli, the royal lake. After the Islamic Revolution in 1979, the man-made pond and park were renamed El Goli, the lake of the people. A new song begins in the car. Roshan turns up the volume on the radio. But the songs are from his personal playlist, which he downloaded on Telegram. It's that kind of song you would never hear on the national radio in Iran. The melody, and especially its long-drawn Baroye Azadi at the end, immediately sticks with me and still gives me goosebumps today. Baroye has become something like the anthem of the revolution, Roshan explains to me. By revolution, he means the protest movement surrounding Jina Mahsa Amini's death, which today marks its first anniversary. I have been in Iran for 2 days now. At this point, I don't yet know that this song will accompany me for the next 2.5 months. Baroye can be translated into English roughly as for dancing in the streets, for the fear of kissing, for my sister, your sister, and our sisters. That's how this song by Shervin Hajipur begins, who was also arrested for publishing it. It ends with for freedom. Boroye azadi. A freedom that many people I meet are longing to get back. A freedom that we are only allowed to live through you travelers, at least for a little bit. Shahnaz, a retail saleswoman, tells me some 2 months later in a grocery store on the Persian Gulf. I am also writing these lines for women like Shahnaz. We live in a kind of open-air prison. This is our reality, she says. She doesn't wear her headscarf when I come to the store for an espresso. But when local men do their shopping, she pulls her loose-fitting scarf over her short-cropped hair. Boroye azadi. I don't ask her if she cut her hair in the wake of last year's protests. Even after 2 months in the country, I still feel like I'm on thin ice when talking to Persians. You can't really trust anyone. Roshan already teaches me on my second day. How people dress, how they walk, that often reveals much more than what they say. I am also writing these lines for Roshan's sister Mariam. As I sit with the two of them and their parents on their living room carpet to eat dinner, I gain a first impression of how different the worlds of the Iranian public and those behind closed doors are. An international TV station is running while we have dinner. It's showing scenes of the protests, and Mariam begins to tell me how almost a year ago she was threatened at gunpoint by police officers because her headscarf slipped down while she was at work. After dinner, the father of the family turns off the TV and kneels on the carpet to pray. Only God can give us back our freedom, he says. Boroye azadi. I'm writing these lines for Anahita, whom I meet in the hostel in Isfahan. She tells me that she felt real freedom for the first time during her vacation in Turkey. And above all, safety. There, I could wear what I want in public for the first time in my life and feel safe when I saw a policeman, she says. Women in Iran have to deal with repression like dress codes and much worse on a daily basis. I experienced this when, together with 2 other hostel acquaintances, we want to smoke a hookah near the Shah Mosque, which, by the way, is officially called the Imam Mosque ever since the Islamic Revolution. I'm afraid that's not possible, says the local owner, somewhat befuddled. Women are not allowed in this part of the restaurant. Only men are allowed to smoke the hookah, he says. It is only when other guests intercede that the always respectful owner gives in. To be on the safe side, he shuts down the pub, especially for us. Spontaneous controls can happen at any time, he says. On a regular basis, stores and any sort of locales are closed if they don't follow the rules of the morality police. Anahita is ashamed for this incident, but she says she's used to it. You know the story of Britney Spears, right? That's how it is for us women in Iran. Legally, we are all subjects to the state and the man in our family. Boroye azadi. I am also writing these lines for Kimia, with whom I happen to strike up a conversation because she hears me talking in English. Within a few minutes, Kimia tells me that as a woman in Iran, you are already lost from birth. Fathers are distraught when they find out they are not having a son but a daughter. And many let their daughters feel that too. She describes also remembering her own childhood. Just how short it takes to come back to this topic again and again shows how heavy the events of the last few months, but in reality the last few years, have weighed on the shoulders of Persians, and especially Persian women. Boroye azadi. The list of people for whom I'm writing these lines could go on for a very long time. Far too many of them have had such experiences. Far too many of them are victims of oppression, of verbal and of physical violence. Far too many personally know someone who has been executed or killed on the open street. The need to talk about the protests, about the revolution as it is referred to offhand, seems to be strong among almost all Persians I meet. Baraye Azadi. Again and again, people draw the image of a fire that was lit a year ago by the death of Jina Mahsa Amini. Right now, we are the embers that continue to smolder under the ashes. But all it takes is one spark and the whole thing will explode. Amin is certain. I know him from my accommodation in Tehran. In a long conversation that you're about to hear, he tells me in great detail about his experiences with the protests last year. During one of those protests, he says 8 out of 10 people were agents of the secret police. Amin had to spend 22 days in prison, 18 of them in solitary confinement. He was tortured and interrogated for hours. But he did not weaken, he says. Not even when they asked for the 5,000th time. And as soon as there is another protest, I will be there, he says with a self-confidence that I find difficult to grasp. Why he takes this on, I want to understand. We had a slogan during the protests. Courage can also be a pandemic. If someone sees what we did, maybe next time they will be on the streets too, Amin tells me. What follows touches me deeply. I believe we have to sacrifice something for the next generation in Iran. Even if I die today, 1,000 people will be freer in the future than I am. Baraye Azadi. And there's, like I wrote, plenty of stories that could be told. Another one that I would like to highly recommend was published by a channel called Humans of New York. Brandon over there has been doing a great job of storytelling for years, and he told a story in 54 parts about and together with an Iranian man who has fled his beloved country during the Islamic Revolution. It's a really heart-touching and heartfelt story, and if you want to understand how things like that can happen, how regimes like that can come to power, and why this revolution is still ongoing and is anything but over, then I highly recommend you to go over to Facebook or Instagram, go to and search Humans of New York and read that story. I personally loved it. It taught me a lot. I learned a lot, and I genuinely believe that we have to tell these stories. And just as a little add-on and as an explanation, not as a justification, because there's nothing that needs to be justified, but just because I want to explain my thinking. This was not a reaction, an emotional reaction, publishing this and publishing the text. I thought about it for a long time, but I felt the need, and I felt that it is the right thing to do. It would be wrong to keep it on my laptop. This needs to be told, it needs to be retold, it needs to be spread. Even if it doesn't make much impact from me personally, it was important to keep my promise to all the people that I've met, to tell their stories, to tell the people here in Europe, to use the little platform that I have, because this is an issue that I feel it affects us all. Maybe not directly, but even indirectly. This is a feminist issue. This is an issue of human rights. This is an issue of the future generations, because authoritarian regimes are more powerful today than they have been since World War II, probably. And in many different places, China, Russia, who are also surging superpowers in our global society. And if we don't step up against them, then maybe our democracy is threatened as well. We take it as granted oftentimes, or at least I used to, and it's not. It can be taken away. And this is also why I'm doing this. And now, because I've already talked way too much, I'm gonna pass on the word to Amin. By the way, all the names in that story, in that text, have been changed for obvious security reasons. The podcast that you're about to hear, or the interview that you're about to hear, has also been changed in terms of Amin's voice. It's without video, and all that to protect him, obviously. And yeah, this is Amin.
Jinjian Azadi, Woman Life Freedom. You were talking about volunteering and protesting.
Okay.
If you want to talk about it.
Oh, I love to talk about it.
Okay.
Because,
Where should we start?
I think we should start about the feeling of protesting and what we're gonna achieve in protesting. You know, but the first time I was going to protesting, it's the start of this protesting of Iran, about 6 months ago, I think.
September, October, last year, something like that.
Yes, exactly, last year. And I was going to the street, I see some people, and immediately I covered my face with a mask because there was Corona in those days also. Like end of the Corona, but the people are still using masks. And I used to go there and learn from other people, like how to run, how to shout, and how to clean your eyes when they're like shooting tear gas or something like this, and how to know the section and the streets and the avenue and something like this, how to protect yourself, the bad situations, and how to find out who is the imposter, because there is a lot of security guys that they're like shout in the people, they do anything, but they're imposters. They are security guys from the government, and they show them as a normal person, and they can easily mark you, so they can get you later in empty streets. They use this kind of things, blah blah blah.
How do you find out? Like, how can you tell?
A person.
Yeah, if they are an imposter or not.
You know, they change the outfits, but you can somehow they have a code, like everyone, the security guys, in one day they all have a small bag with them, like this. They have like ring in the second finger.
Sure.
They have like t-shirts without any mark, or with
So it's small details.
small details, exactly. But it's not accurate. Of course it's not accurate, because it happens that maybe someone can be accidentally wear these kind of things. But we should easily get them before they wanna get them or do something. First we check the bags, they check the pockets for like teasers. Yes, exactly. Pepper spray or any ID card. And with that we can easily, because they want, if some of them take pictures with the phone, and we easily can catch them and search them. Like, don't take a picture, delete them, because there are many faces in that pictures. They can easily recognize the protesters. If you want to take a video, you can take a video from the feet or something like this. Or you can have to blur it or something like this. And after that, when I go there and I don't get arrested in the streets, when I was in about 3 months ago, it was, I don't know how to say that, it was an event. Somebody like make an appointment for an event in somewhere, like we are going to be crowded in this part of the city, like this time, like something like this. We have something like Behesht Zahra. It means heaven of Zahra in Persian, and it's a cemetery. I went there, and I should say there are 80% imposters there.
Really?
80%.
Wow.
Like 8 out of 10 was like police guys
Wow.
in different outfits, different styles, even people with piercings, people with tattoos, everything, people with baggy feet, everything you can imagine, every kind of person.
Wow.
But they are imposters. I was caught there. I was in the solitary for 18 days
Oh, shit.
and about 22 days prison. And that's it.
Okay, you were saying we should talk about the feelings. How about being scared? How about feeling I should not do this because I might be arrested? That has crossed your mind, or you never thought of that way?
Every time, when you go in there, you think you're gonna be arrested, you're gonna look like different ways, like you always look you're behind like every 5 seconds, and you look everywhere for police guys, for imposters, for anybody can wanna reach you. You're gonna be scared because even if it was a normal person wanna like warn you for something, but as you know, you have to sacrifice if you want to achieve something big. You think you can be arrested, and it's not impossible to be arrested. But you have to always be prepared for run. You have to always be prepared for like fight. It's getting arrested is the part of the protest. I don't know anything about other countries, like any other protesters in other countries, but in Iran, you can be arrested anytime.
Sure. When did you make that choice that you are going to make the sacrifice, that your opinion or how to explain that, your personal understanding of how life as a young person in Iran should be, how that is strong enough for you to make that sacrifice?
When I see other persons like me do the sacrifice, getting killed, getting arrested a lot, I think it's more than 30,000 people getting arrested. I think about 10,000 people already in jail. A lot of people getting executed or even getting killed in the streets. And I think, why shouldn't I go out there? Why not? Why not?
Simply, why not?
Why not?
Why is it worth
What's
it?
the difference
Yeah.
between me and others? It's life. If they do this, why am I matter more?
You know why I'm asking? Because for a lot of Europeans who have never experienced anything like this, we
Understand.
we have many mechanisms in our
Economy?
constitution
Okay.
that protects our freedom.
We don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have that. So a lot of Europeans, I think, especially young ones, people like me, people who are traveling, people who have international mindsets,
Okay.
quote unquote, we admire you. We think
thank
you
you.
are. We think you are extremely brave. I can, only speak for myself, but I think a lot of people share this sentiment, and I think a lot of people still question themselves, or they ask themselves, why is it worth it?
In my opinion and my point of view is, you have to do sacrifice for the next generations. If you getting killed, even if you're getting killed today, there are 1,000 people free in the future. One is nothing equal to thousands. So I think
So it's for the greater good, kind of.
yes, for the greater good. It's exactly for the greater good, because there is a quote in Iranian, and this protest says, bravery can be a pandemic. If others see you are brave, they can be brave too.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Bravery can be pandemic. If you are brave, you can tell others they can be brave too, and it's shared to others. It's a feeling can be shared, and
It's kind of like a spark for the fire,
Exactly,
Like you're
exactly.
being that spark. How do you feel now Right now it's mid-April. It seems like there's not much happening anymore,
Yes,
or
yes.
just at the moment.
You know, there is something interesting. I spent about $150. It was all I have in those days, and I bought a motorcycle protective suit for the for the protests, and I used to wear that in the like warm climate, but it was for the protection. I I just love to do that because they are using protection. I mean, the Riyadh police. Why don't we use protection as well? I bought that and I use that in these protests. And the question you said, what was the question?
Right now, how do you feel about that spark? Do you feel it's still there? Do you feel like you can spread this fire and spread this pandemic, or do you feel like it's so calmed down that nothing's gonna change?
Calm down. It's gonna change, but it takes time. We need to spread the knowledge of the protesting. We should spread the bravery. We should. The spark is, it's the fire under the ash right now. There are a lot of things happening in other cities, not Tehran, because it's capital. It's hard. It's big. They have a lot of supplies here, and but there are there are some vigilantes, not like vigilantes, like how do you say that? I don't remember the word. The vandalism. There are a lot of vandalism happening even in this Tehran. They write down like quotes on the walls. They fire the banners. They burn the banners of the government. They throw molotovs in the a small, like we call it passage. It's the human, like volunteering for the help of the government, like Islamic thing.
Sure.
It's a volunteering. They fire these kind of places, and I think if they caught me again and again, if the protests happen again, I will go. Doesn't matter for me.
Well,
How many times they're gonna ask me?
wow, that's
You
powerful.
know, people like me are going past that fear because they getting arrested one time. It was bad, it was hard, but there is nothing worse than that. What worse than that can happen? Like 18 days in a solitary,
Yeah.
like in the 1 meter in a 1.5 meter room for 18 days with a shower in it, with a toilet in it. What can happen worse than that?
Yeah. Not much.
Not much.
Maybe some torture.
They tortured us like with teasers or
Oh, yeah?
something like that. Yes. But the hard part is torturing with like, how do you say it? With the manners, with the
Like conditioning.
like how they treat us and how they talk to us.
Yeah. Sure.
It's the main torture.
Yeah.
One time, when I first when I first get arrested, they interrogate me for like 13 hours straight. 13 hours straight, and they said, if I write down, you're gonna be executed, and sign it, you're gonna be executed right now, and you will not go to the there is no law for it.
Wow.
There is nothing you can do about it. Nobody your family doesn't know about it, and nobody can't know that you're executed here. We're gonna execute you here and put your body in the bag and throw your body into the desert. Nobody should know. Something like this.
So how did you react?
You cannot be brave in those situations. Of course, it's harmful, it's scary, but you can't. I'm always thinking about other people getting arrested. I'm always thinking about other people getting killed, and I think, okay, if they get arrested like me, what's the difference between me and others? So I should be brave for others. I cannot. They want you to be a snitch, you know?
Snitches get stitches.
Yes, exactly. But I just said I was there for for the for for the how do you say that? When you get to the grave or cemetery, I just be there to pay respect to the dead. I don't know what happened there. I wasn't be here. If I know there's a protest, I act like I don't know anything, and always I act like I don't know anything. I don't know what's happening. I haven't been in this kind of situations. I haven't do protest, like something like this. I act like I don't know anything.
Wow. Fucking hell.
You know, the hardest part about I getting caught is they ask the same question for 5,000 times. You just want to answer it whenever they want, whatever they want, so they just stop the repeating process.
I can't even imagine.
When they ask you like, what do you do? What do you do in cemetery? Like 5,000 times. Why are you there? 5,000 times.
And you just don't say anything?
I said I was there for
Paying respect.
Paying
Yeah.
respect. I was there for paying respect. I was there for paying respect. And they say okay, and ask it again.
Fucking hell.
You know, I don't know other people how they react, but as you know, I have a mastery in clinical psychology, and I don't.
I didn't know that
Oh,
actually.
really?
No.
I didn't say that before. And I know the mind games, so I think it's easier for me to
Yeah.
handle these kind of situations.
Sure. Wow. How do I know you're not an imposter?
You you don't. You know, but there are a lot of as you know, you can't recognize because I've been invited to be a government security person
Really?
like 5 times
Really?
because I
Of
have
how you
tattoos.
look?
Yes, exactly. They
Wow.
asked me like 4 to 5 times,
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
and that's it.
Yeah. That's gonna be a lot. Wow. Okay, I have two completely unrelated questions that I always ask everybody at the end of the
Okay,
podcast.
okay.
Totally different subject.
Okay.
If you could write a letter to somebody, can be anybody in the present, in the future, in the past, who would you write the letter to and what would you write?
I would write a letter to past king of our country, Muhammad Reza King or Muhammad Reza Shah. I would write it. That letter is from the future. Don't let the Khomeini get into power. Just kill it, like execute it, and don't let the Iran be an Islamic Republic, because I'm in 50 years in the future and I know it's gonna be hell, and that's it.
That is tough shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for somebody like me.
Oh, yeah, it's no more fun, yeah.
Yeah, I know. All right.
So yeah, tough, I know, to listen to. Probably, I don't know how you feel about it. Always feel free to let me know. Always feel free to drop me a comment or send me a message or reach out to me. I think there's not much more that needs to be said. I think it speaks for itself. What you just heard. Just the reminder again, please, if you can and if you have some sort of platform, and even if you don't, just share this as much as you can. It doesn't even need to be my content necessarily, but the story of Jina Mahsa Amini, the story of the Iranian people, the story of what's going on in this country should be told, it should be heard, and as far as we can, action should be taken. I did not ask my usual 2 questions to Amin in the end, which is why I'm just gonna go for the sound of a dove as a symbol of freedom. This is what a dove sounds like. So yeah, thank you for all your attention. Thank you if you've been listening this far. Check out the show notes. Also, if you want to find out how to support me, and a quick reminder, 10th of October, reach out to me if you want to come and reserve a spot. I was told by someone that I should end this podcast with, it's actually quite obvious, much peace and dove. So yeah, much peace and dove, but also love. Until next time.